Oh,
Brother.
hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
What's your name?
I'm Kwame.
Okay, I'm Shaya. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too, Chef.
Dr. Kazriel Ben Yehuda.
Yes, sir, in the house.
Yes,
How's
sir.
everybody doing?
Hello.
Thank you. All praise to the Most High.
Brother Henry, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm still here.
Thanks for inviting me. Honored to be in such company of distinguished people. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Likewise, brother.
Yeah.
You never met Kwame last time. He wasn't on last time.
Okay, Brother Kwame, how are you? Shalom, shalom.
Yeah, shalom to you too, brother. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Great, great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my sister, what is your name again?
Shaya.
Shea. Okay.
Yeah.
And where you located, Sister Shea?
I am in Alabama,
Okay.
the U.S.
Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, my sister, thank you.
That's it.
Yeah. Where are you at, brother Kazriel?
I'm in Israel, Dimona, Israel.
Israel. Excellent. Excellent. That's the final destination.
Yeah, and where are you? Because you're talking about how cold it is. Where are you? Alaska, Siberia?
it may as well be Alaska. I'm in Toronto, Canada.
Oh, okay, great, great. I got some I know some Hebrew Israelites in Toronto.
Really?
Yeah.
Please
Oh, yeah.
send them my way because I'm yet to find them, man. Well,
Yes, sir.
they're all over the place. They just don't know it.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was actually born in Detroit.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, right next to on the border of Canada.
Right next door. Yeah,
Windsor.
I used to go. My grandfather used to take me into Toronto a lot. He used to buy. That was back in the 60s, 70s. He used to buy the cigarettes and the liquor without the tax, and then bring it back to Detroit and sell it. Yeah, that was his hustle.
I was about to say, it's a smart one. It's a smart.
Yeah, that was back in the day. Bless
Yes,
his
sir.
soul.
You, brother, how long you been in Israel for now?
To be 50 years in another year.
50 years. Phenomenal.
Yeah.
You got a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, I left at 17 years old. I left Detroit and came to Israel.
You guys knew back then who we were?
Yeah.
Who we are?
Yeah, it's been a lot. Man, and we got to write books about this journey. It's just too much to try to share.
I would imagine. Yeah, of course.
In sessions like this. Yeah, it's so much, Brian, and it's so much, misunderstood, and it's so much people. I mean, it's just, that's why I'm so honored, that Brother Henry would have these kind of sessions. So at least we can begin the dialogue, because it's so important.
Yes, sir. Without doubt. What part of Israel are you in?
Southern part, southern Israel.
So in Dimona?
Basically, most people, when they think of Israel in the Israelite experience, not just the Israelite experience, but the biblical experience, I'd say. Most people focus in the northern part, in the Galilee, because it's been basically Christianity that has defined this area, especially when it comes to, Africans in the diaspora. But most of the history of the Torah, the prophets, took place in the Negev region, took place in the south, and in what's called Jordan today. Jordan, because there was no Jordan in the times of our, the ancient Israelites. And most of the history, a lot of our history actually took place in what's called Jordan today. So it's a lot we do. I have a nonprofit organization, and I work with a lot of the indigenous Africans. Some of them are under the Islamic faith, but they still consider themselves as sons of Abraham. So they still identify as Hebrews. They're Hebrew Ishmaelites, where we are Hebrew Israelites. So it's been an interesting journey.
That is quite interesting indeed, brother. Are they indeed Israelites though, who are identifying as Ishmaelites, or do they look different from us, so to speak? Because you see people in the region like the Philoshes.
They look just they look just like us, and that's one of the the anthropological facts about Northeastern Africa. You know, I've had the honor and blessing of traveling a lot, and extensively in Africa. So I've seen, Africans and, South Africans, East Africans, West Africans, and Central Africans. And they look different from us. They really do. But when you go to Northeastern Africa, because we see Israel as part of Africa, when you go to Northeastern Africa and meet some of the indigenous people here, I mean, people who trace their ancestry back before the Ottoman Empire ruled here. So you're talking about almost back to the Crusades, you're talking about the 1200s, the indigenous people who are here, they look just like you and I, bro. Just like, as a matter of fact, if Henry can let me share the screen, I can show you all some pictures of them.
Okay, let's
Can we do that?
do that. I don't.
I mean, not now, Henry, but I don't want to, interrupt your program, but since we were talking.
Let's see.
Hey, I'm all for it. No one's. I mean, a lot of people aren't here yet, I should say, but hey, that's your call, brother Henry.
Yeah,
I vote aye, Captain.
Yeah, he would have to open the screen for me.
I know. I'm just trying to figure out how to.
While he's doing that, my sister, you have a radio YouTube program that you do weekly or monthly?
No, I make videos, just like what I'm seeing of what's going on around the world, like in connecting it to prophecies in the Old Testament and interviews and just like teachings and stuff. So yeah, videos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm gonna make sure I get to look at some of them.
Okay, great.
Domains. Yeah. Okay.
Brother, have you had the pleasure of going to Dimona to meet our brothers and sisters there and the community that they've developed?
I'm a part of the community. That's that.
Oh, I
Right.
see. Okay, excellent.
Yeah. I'm actually a minister of the community, which is the second level of government.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
Good. I've been in touch with Sarah Mediel.
Oh, okay. Man, I just called him.
Oh, there you go.
We have a minister meeting. The ministers meet every Sunday at this time, and I just called him to let him know I'll be late because I'll be talking to you.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be you, but
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah, all praise to the Most High. Yeah, it would be great if we could get him on here because he has insights that I know he frequents radio shows and
Oh yeah,
journalists come over and just a wealth of information.
That's his job. He's the minister of information. So as a matter of fact, what I'll do is next time we meet, I can have him to sit in for me, because he would definitely bring a different angle, another perspective on things based on the area that he works in. I basically work in foreign affairs and education.
Gotcha, brother.
He's more so the international spokesperson and information minister. So so it's just a different angle we work from.
It would be great if you could both be here.
Well, yeah, that's cool too. I got the protocols. I just don't know the protocols.
Yes, sir. I totally hear you on that. Yeah, we were coordinating because at the time I was just ready to pick up and move to Israel. So looking for ways to make that happen. But that was right before tensions rose between the Palestinians and, the Israeli government and, the missiles going back and forth and whatnot. So that kind of halted plans for a bit. But, I just put it in the Most High's hands. And when the time is right, I shall definitely be there by his grace.
I'm not sure how to share the screen.
No, yeah, evidently it's the way you may have organized it, because when I hit share content, it says only the host can share in this meeting.
Where are you seeing share?
Pardon me?
Where are you seeing share? It says
No, yeah, I have there's an icon. If I wanted to share some information, I can hit it. It's at the top of the screen. It's next to the video icon and the participants. But you would have to allow me to,
I know,
come in.
because all I got is stop video chat pin, then spotlight for everyone. Make a whole.
Would you know how to share pictures? Because I can send them to you, and then you can throw them on the screen. It would just take a minute.
Yeah, I know. Just
Well, I'll do it, but you can continue on with the program, Brother Henry, and I'll just send a few pictures, and before the discussion is over, you may want to throw them up on the screen.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out.
And the title of our meeting today being that JC did not exist.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because it took me a while to realize our brothers and sisters in Dimona subscribe to that same philosophy, because I was watching a bunch of videos and documentaries about Dimona, but they never specifically referenced what the belief is. It's the New Testament and this and that. So I just thought it was more, a clever way of not ruffling feathers. But I've had distinct conversations with Star Ideal, and he's like, yes, no, we don't subscribe to that over here. So that was it was alleviating to hear that, to say the least, Brother Kazriel. That might have been a deal breaker. That would have certainly been a deal breaker, actually, in terms of coming there. I'm like, maybe I should hold off a little bit. Brother Henry, were there any specific points that
loads of points, especially when you're talking to so-called the Christian. They said, "Oh, JC was there at the beginning with Adam and Eve." About JC in the Book of Remembrance. They're saying so many different points, but it's all been proven that it wasn't there. But Dave, the one, or Lee, but none of them are in there. So I don't know what's happened to Lee.
Yes, sir. Sister Shay and I have had tons of these conversations where we go through verses and we see them inserting JC in the script edits, so to speak, where it's the story's already concluded, and then they'll show you something at the back of the book and be like, yeah, here, and this is in the beginning, and the word was Tim, and they try to
Isaiah 50, what is it, 53, or is it 50? Yeah, 53, Isaiah 53.
There you go, you're on it. That's excellent. And yeah, it's like you can't the book, it's sealed. Most High said nothing shall be added onto this or taken away from it. So we can get into it all day. Thankfully we know. And again, to our point, if the Most High doesn't open their eyes to see it yet, then there's nothing we can really do. But as far as for our enlightenment, it's a great discussion to have. I'm just gonna stay in today. It looks sunny, but it's pretty cold out. Brother Kwame, what's going on in your area, man?
The weather changed over the last 7 days. It's got colder, but it won't be anything like what you're going to have there. I'm in the south coast of England,
Gotcha.
the southeast. But where I live, it's classed as or it's one of the sunniest places in the southeast in all year round. But it does get pretty cold. I'm right by the sea.
Gotcha. What was that area? What's that area called, Brother Kwame?
It's Hastings. You know, where they had the Battle of Hastings.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I know on one of our previous meetings you mentioned that, and Brother Dave was talking about how he doesn't live too far from you.
No, he's really close. He's 15 miles. I mean, down the road. We still haven't met up. I think Dave is so busy on tours and talks. He's involved in already. He's involved in so much. It's just one of those. But at a time we'll meet up. I'm quite sure. I'm glad that we're that close. And Henry's again isn't that much further away from us in London. You know. So.
Yeah, fair. It's looking like London will be the likely place. Like, you know, short of all of us being in Israel, but for some sort of reunion, you know, or like physical union, I should say. Yeah. Sister Shea, get that passport ready.
Yeah.
Oh yes, of course.
Why do you think London?
Just because the majority of us are there, right? You, Brother Kwame,
Yeah.
Dave, just by consensus, if it came to it. And, you know, Brother Delvin, I know he's back and forth between London and Turkey. I actually saw pictures of him on Facebook with Brother Dave. I think they were hanging out at some event. I'm not sure.
I think Henry went to that event as well.
Yeah.
Oh, what was that?
It was based on a flat Earth, and then it just different talks. Dave talked. One second. Yeah.
Speaking of which, commiserations to Rob Skiba. I don't know if you guys saw, his passing. That was quite a shock. He was a very prominent voice in the movement. Lots of videos I listened to, just him breaking things down biblically, about the flat Earth, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that was a big blow to the community for sure. He felt like one of the good guys, you know.
Yeah.
So if I can ask a question, the conversation today, did JC exist?
No.
What is the?
We've proven that JC didn't exist.
Didn't, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, didn't exist, correct.
Right.
From what perspective are we, well, let me ask this, do we acknowledge a historical individual or the historical Yeshua? Or do we see him too as a construct? Yeshua.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've heard conversations had about this before, and I tell, you know, the Christians that even if he did exist, he would have been an Israelite, but he didn't exist based on the information that we've attained from reading the book itself and the contradictions. And I believe the majority of us believe that Yeshua, Yahushai, JC, whatever name is given to him, is just a Greco-Roman construct of the Edomites to mentally enslave our people into the idea of worshiping an idol in place of the Most High.
Yeah, well, I think we're in 100% agreement in terms of the character Jesus Christ, or Christ Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just so much there that that contradicts, you know, the presence of an individual, you know, in that idea, in that character. It doesn't run congruent with the Israelite narrative, you know. And then the more we study the Greek, like as you just said, the Greek or the Greco-Roman influences into that part of the world, you know, we can just see that, you know, it is a construct. It has no connection with the Israelite narrative. So, but when you, if we look at some of the other historical data there is information there that it speaks to a revolt that took place around the 1st century. You know, this is right before the total collapse of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And it was centered around an individual who some historians say was Yeshua, the Messiah, or Yeshua, the Anointed. But the key is, what was the message and mission of this historical Yeshua when you match it with, compare it with the Greco-Roman Jesus Christ? You have two different experiences. And so what we did as historians, we focused on the historical individual because there is information there. And this is not to say that we just shut it down. One of my chief subjects as a scholar was the whole Yeshua, the Hebrew Messiah versus Jesus, the Christian Christ. You know, I've done a lot of extensive work. I've read a lot of historical references. And I think what's important is that we confirm and continue to build on the fact that Jesus Christ did not exist. But I think as historians who are retrieving our history, we're building, you know, our historical backdrop again, so that we can have more intelligence on our history. You know, I still think there's a worthy historical references that we should continue to study and to research, because what it does, it allows us to understand more about how we failed as a people. Because when we understand the historical Yeshua, he didn't come to judge the world like the Christian Christ. He came as a revolutionary, basically just like you and I. He came to restore the sovereignty and the what you can call the independent sovereignty of the Israelite people based on how they had capitulated to other nations. You follow what I'm saying? He came to, and his main message was against the leadership of the Israelites, you know, who were at that time, they were scribes, Pharisees, and Sadducees. And his message was, you all have turned the Israelite culture into the Israelite religion, you can say, because they had began to put more emphasis on the symbolic instructions, whereas they had lost the consciousness of the law. For example, during the Holy Day season, you know, the streets of Jerusalem would be filled with individuals coming to pay homage to the temple. You know, you couldn't find a hotel room there. You know, they were packed because, you know, people were coming from all over the country to pay homage, you know, because for, you know, 3 times a year, all of the male Israelites were to come before the altar and bring, you know, sacrifices. They were to bring what you would call some type of gifts, and it's another word I'm looking for, offerings. Okay. They would have to bring offerings to the priest. And so Yeshua, from what we can see, Yeshua was telling the priest and the intellectuals of that time, you all are getting it wrong. People are bringing these sacrifices to the altar, but their hearts aren't correct. You feel me? Because the leadership had not maintained the visions of the prophets correctly. And this is why Rome had taken all of the land, all of the wealth, all of the currency that the people were using were Roman coins. You know, the very eternal essence of being a Hebrew Israelite was lost. And they were supplanting it, or they were expressing it by way of sacrificial worship. In other words, they would, you know, according to the eternal ideal of Moses, we were supposed to have brotherhood and good hearts and love and compassion and charity for the widows, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But no longer, we had lost that soul, that eternal, you know, commitment from the heart. And now we were sacrificing lambs, you know. And so even though Moses had instituted laws like that, you know, the sacrificial worship, but the historical Yeshua, or there were leaders at that time that were saying, we need to stop sacrificing the lambs and sacrifice the evil in your heart. You see what I'm saying? And so, and this is the main reason why they killed him, because if we look at, and this is interesting to me, brothers and sisters, you know, when we read the scriptures, we don't see victory. We don't see a people who had great success in their ideal of worshiping the Most High. So much so that this is why we're having this Zoom call, and you're in Toronto, and you know, we're all over the diaspora because it's something we didn't get right. You know, and that's what we have to find out as a new generation of Israelites. What did our fathers do wrong? The ancient fathers, what didn't they get right? They were going to the temple and worshiping. So it was something else more than sacrificing the animals and paying homage to the Levites. And, you know, they were doing that. The street, like I said, you can look in history books and you can see that the streets of Jerusalem were packed during the holiday season, the holy day seasons. But still, in 70 AD, the Most High ran us out of that land and cast us into the diaspora. So the reason why we think it's important, because as we make our recovery as Israelites, you know, we have to correct the mistakes of our fathers. We can't go in with the same ideas and consciousness about worshiping that they had. And so, you know, and that's what we're studying. As a scholar, gotcha. That's where I am. But in terms of, you know, I think one of the problems that some of our Israelite communities do, they just make Jesus Christ black. But they still keep the Greco-Roman character and the Greco-Roman paganisms that's tied into him, you know. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Very interesting point you bring up, Brother Casriel. Before I even rebuttal to that, welcome, Brother Delvin. Peace and God bless. I'm guessing you're London side because you look pretty toasty over there.
Yes,
you need all those layers of turkey.
I doubt.
Oh, excellent. Good to see you, brother.
See you guys.
Brother yes, sir. Brother Casriel, to your point, I just wanted to quickly say I'm in total agreement with a lot of what you said and how important it is to keep having that dialogue, just for an increase of knowledge and ensuring that we don't fall into the same pitfalls our ancestors did, and that our brothers and sisters and even us still fall into from, you know, time to time in modern days. However, if we're basing it on the book, how much of it can we attribute to the character? Because beyond the name, Yeshua or JC or whatever, you know, name is given to the character, again, was it a divine conception? Did he really walk on water? Did he really feed people just a handful of bread and fish? So the question now becomes, what stories do we give validity to and which ones do we not? Is he truly the Son of the Most High? Did he really die for our sins? So it's like picking and choosing, in a sense, what we want to attribute to that character beyond, you know, the points that you brought up that I firmly agree are pertinent in terms of the way he had somewhat turned into a religion due to the leaders that we had at the time.
That's perfect. That's perfect, Prince, because what you have to do is you have to seek to know the references about Jesus Christ and what are the roots of those things you just mentioned. You know, the walking on the water, dying for the sins of men, being born from a woman who did not have sexual intercourse. You know, when you study the Greek God system, you see that their Jesus Christ was just a carryover from Greek deities. Because most people don't even know that first of all, the Gospels were written after the epistles of Paul. If King James had organized the Bible chronologically correct, the epistles of Paul would be before the Gospels of John, Mark, Matthew, right? And those books did not even surface until maybe 400 years after the fall of Jerusalem, 70 AD. So a lot of it is speculative, and then when we look at the history of how Christianity and Jesus Christ really took form as a religious institution, we can pinpoint that time right at 325 at the Nicene Council with Constantine. And this is where you find a lot of the identity and the characteristics and the history that was inculcated into the Jesus Christ concept. For example, December 25th, the average Christian would say that that's the birthday of Jesus. And I'm sure all y'all know this stuff here. I mean, because it's all over the internet, that December 25th was a pagan day of Sol Invictus.
Yes, sir.
So we ain't got to go over all that. I know you're clear on that. But that's what we have to do the work. We have to, all of these characteristics and the identifying things about Jesus Christ, they can be researched and they have no Hebraic root. And that's how we differentiate between the two. There's a book. Let me show you all something. Hold on. Can you all read that, or is it backwards?
We got Zealot.
Zealot.
Yeah.
This is a book that was written by a Christian, what you call Arab, who wrote, this is probably one of the best books. This is probably one of the best books that I've read about the historical Yeshua, because what it does, it lays out a more practical, historical idea of what was going on in first century, quote unquote, Palestine. And because we do know that it was a major revolt at that time. And so if there was a Messiah at that particular time, a Hebrew Messiah, someone who would come in the legacy of the prophets, he would have had a totally different agenda than what Christians say Jesus did during that time.
Mm.
Two totally different agendas. And so there's a lot of information out there right now. And over time, you know, I can share a lot of this. Matter of fact, I'll put the name of this book, I'll type it in, and some of you may want to look at it. And it really differentiates, you know, because his name couldn't have been Jesus because there was no J at that time. And we all know that. You know, so when they say by no other name than Jesus can you be saved, that would have to be, it would have to be incorrect, because you couldn't even say that name during that time, you know, so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
To your point, Brother Kazriel, how much stock do we or have our brothers and sisters in the community of Dimona, you know, that I would imagine the majority of which are in consensus with what you just narrated to us, explained to us, how much stock do they put in the New Testament? And where are the references to the Messiah of Yeshua in the so-called Old Testament?
Well, you can find first of all, we don't put too much credibility in the New Testament, because remember, it was written in Greek. The original New Testament was written by Greek speakers. They were written by people who were totally influenced by Hellenism. You see, that's why I said it's important to know when you read the Gospels, Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, those were Greek speakers. They were Greek thinkers. So they're unreliable. In the old so-called Old Testament, most of the prophets who were speaking of a coming Messiah, they were not trying to pinpoint a specific Messiah per se, because if that was the case, King David would fit that description. Because all kings were messiahs. You know, in the Hebrew idea, all prophets were messiahs. You know, Mashiach, or the anointed ones, were just the teachers. These were not superhuman beings. These were not mythological human beings. These were just like you and I. You could actually be identified as a Messiah if you define the word in the Hebrew language. You can't translate the word Messiah into the English language and come up with the same character. It would lose it. If you keep Messiah in the Hebrew language and define it by Hebrew words and Hebrew concepts, Messiahs are just enlightened ones. These were teachers. And just like any of us, those of you who have studied history in depth, you can in fact predict future events, because history is destiny. You know, you can't separate history from destiny. So when you talk about prophets, these were not men of supernatural men. These were men who were scholars. They were intellect, and they studied, and they were able to predict the future. So King David could very well be the Messiah that many of the prophets spoke to, you know, because the Messiah was a character, it was a spirit, you know. And so again, when we look at the revolt that took place during the first century, we do have individuals. We can identify individuals who were called messiahs by the Hebrews of that time. But these men were in no way in the character, in the frame of spirituality that the so-called Jesus Christ was in.
Well said, brother. And to that point, where do we get the information about Yeshua in the book in totality? Is there a way to draw maybe bits and pieces or clues as to the existence of that person?
Certainly. What I'll do, I'll write down a few books that I would advise everyone to read. I'll put them on, I'll send them to Henry on your email, Brother Henry.
Yeah.
And then you can share them with the brothers and sisters. And I think this would start helping to lay a more correct historical backdrop to first century Palestine, so we can understand better what the Israelite people were up against and who the leaders were. What didn't we get right? And what caused us to go into this great captivity? Because when we understand that better, we'll be better able to get out of the captivity.
Brother, would you say that Yeshua was a Sicarii?
Sicarii. I've heard that. Explain, what is that exactly, Sicarii? I've heard that term.
Yeah, Sicarii were at that time where what you're talking about during that period, they were classed as Israelite zealots, and anybody who was against anything to do, they would go and assassinate anybody who was following the Greco-Roman way at that time.
Exactly. And yes.
So
as a matter of fact, this book talks about it. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that's why when you hear about Peter had the story about Peter, how he cut the guy's ear off. Everybody know that story. He was an assassin. As a matter of fact, I tell the story that the reason why Yeshua was mad at Peter is because he missed his throat.
So that's what I was saying, Mike. Just from what you've just said, and having an understanding of that during that period of time, that there were these Sicarii who were Israelites, who were staunch Israelites, and they saw what was going on, and that was their because we were being overrun as such, they were stealthily going around and
exactly,
trying to, I don't know, with an assassin's mind, trying to turn people back to the Most High. So yeah. Anyway, I just because you said zealot,
yeah,
and I
even though
it were classed as Israelite zealots. So
even though, from my understanding, Yeshua would not have supported a military rebellion because they wouldn't win. It's almost just like with Dr. King. As profound as he was, Dr. King knew we couldn't win an uprising. Even Malcolm, I mean, our brothers knew that we couldn't win by those means, even though we were not afraid and we were not naive. You feel what I'm saying? The Panthers knew. I mean, we didn't have the resources to fight off the FBI and the American army, but the brothers were not naive either, and they were not afraid. So that was more like the character of the Yeshua idea, the Yeshua image. He knew that Peter had that knife. He may have had one himself. Just like any of you. Those of you who are in America, sometimes you might have to arm yourselves. It's not the best way. We can't win, in the long run like that. But we're not naive. And we understand sometimes we have to protect our families, we have to protect ourselves, but that's a good point, bro. And what's your name, brother? I don't see your name up here. I see some letters.
Oh no, it's Kwame.
Brother Kwame. I'm sorry. Yeah, they did say Brother Kwame. All right. Thank you, Brother Kwame.
Right. So, in my opinion, there are people who probably should be on this talk who would have more of a depth of knowledge in some of these subjects and the very existence of a Messiah or JC. Okay, so it's the talk itself today. I'm glad I'm on it actually, because it's good to hear what I'm hearing. But I think we need to follow this talk up again with both Lee and Dave on the talk, because it would give more of a more rounded opinion on the things that Brother Dr. Kazarel what you're saying, because I know that both Dave and Lee have done extensive research into the existence and the validity of the New Testament and of a Messiah as such. Okay, so my knowledge on this matter isn't as extensive as it should be, because I've personally dismissed the existence of JC, and hearing of another Messiah similar, which does involve the New Testament, you know, John, Mark, Matthew, Peter, Luke, that existence, if there's a Messiah with those people involved as well, I would like to know more about that, because I haven't read on any extent, I've done my research, and it's under my understanding that a JC or a past Messiah as such didn't exist. So that's my knowledge. That's why we've had this talk today, because if people here believe that there was a Messiah or a JC character, I personally never thought that character or a New Testament character existed. I thought that was under the writings of Josephus and the Flavian family. I know you mentioned the Greek and Greco-Roman writers of that time. So if there's anything that conflicts with that, it'd be interesting to hear what it is. Is anybody here with me on that?
Yeah.
I think that's very well said, Brother Delvin.
Yeah. And my brother, I agree with you. In terms of the JC character, we have to totally ostracise it. We have to totally neglect it.
So we're not going hand in hand.
Even hold on. No, see, and that's the very sensitive part of the historical data that we have.
Yes, it is.
All of my references that I'm speaking to has to do with the Israelite narrative, you know. And I think one of the advantages that we've had here in Israel is we've had scholars to study the Torah from the Hebrew language. And what's important about that is you have certain scholars that may speak Hebrew, but they'll translate, because they may not be profound enough in the Hebrew language to define words in Hebrew. We'll translate the words into English. For example, there's no concept in the Hebraic language for salvation as it was taught in Christianity. You know, we talk about Jesus Christ, the Savior. Now, Yeshua, his name, in English, they translated Yeshua into salvation. But there's no concept in the Hebrew idea for a God that saves. There's no God that saves you. In the Hebrew, Yeshua's name means to hear and to do. To hear and to do. So the Messiah, in the Hebrew idea, he didn't come to save us. He came to restore and redeem. Those are two different concepts. Because when you redeem someone, you don't just help them out of a precarious situation. You have to give everything back to them that was lost. It's a recovery. You know, you have to have all of your inheritance returned. And the main thing is the Redeemer only teaches. He doesn't save you. You have to save yourself. There's something you have to do to make the process complete. So again, when we try to understand, you can't understand the ideal of Yeshua in no way when you take him into the New Testament. You're losing.
So where is it in the Book of Remembrance?
In the book of, you're speaking to the Torah, you say book of remembrance?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, the so-called Old Testament.
He's a spirit. He's all of the prophets. See, the Messiah is not designated in the Hebrew idea. The Messiah is not designated to one individual. The Messiah, Saul was a Messiah. David was a Messiah. Samuel was a Messiah. Even when you follow the, I wish I had a chalkboard that I can write this out for you so you can see it, because I can't explain it well enough for you to conceptualize properly. But when King James translated the Bible from from Hebrew to Greek and then into English, in the Hebrew Torah, it was David HaMashiach. It was David HaMashiach. That's what it says in the Hebrew language. David HaMashiach. But when King James translated it into English, he said, David, the anointed one. He didn't call him Mashiach. Mashiach in the Hebrew language is Messiah. So actually, if King James had translated the Torah or the Tanakh correctly, everywhere you see in the English Bible, the anointed, you would see Mashiach. That means Isaiah was not the anointed one. Isaiah was Mashiach. They were all messiahs. Samuel was not Samuel, the anointed one, as King James wrote. In the Hebrew Torah, in the Hebrew Tanakh, is Samuel HaMashiach. They even uses the term in the Old Testament in Hebrew. You even have the word Mishikeh. Mishikeh is Messiah pluralized. There were many messiahs. There were messiahs. There were many existing at the same time. So it's Christianity that developed this idea of the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Like it was designated for one particular individual. So when you ask the question, where do we see Yeshua in the Old Testament? It's a spirit. It's an anointment that comes through a level of consciousness that one reaches. He becomes the enlightened one. Okay,
this is the very, very first time I've heard anything anywhere near what you're referring to right now. It's brand new to me.
Good.
It's interesting that we're on this talk right now, but as I said, the two people who probably could shed more light on their opinion would be Dave and Lee. I'd like to ask April, what does she think about this particular construct?
Well, you were talking about the anointed one being the Messiah. Isn't that both the same thing? Like the Messiah is anointed?
Yes, exactly. But why didn't King James call all of the, because when he referred to Jesus, he called him Jesus Christ, right?
Right.
Christ is the Greek word, is the English word for the Greek Christos. Christos is the Greek translation of Messiah. So the point is, when King James translated the Tanakh, the Bible, from the Hebrew into the English, he only designated the Christ to one individual, and that was Jesus. Because, again, I wish I had a board I can show you. Had he translated consistently and correctly, it should have been David Christ, Isaiah Christ, because Christ only means the anointed one. You see what I'm saying, sis?
Mm.
I
Yeah.
hear what you're saying. Right.
Doctor, could I ask you, you've mentioned Hebrew a few times now, and we know that there's Paleo-Hebrew. Is that what we're talking about? When you're talking about translations, are we talking about the modern idea of Hebrewism or the Hebrew language, which has...
We're talking about both. We're talking about both. And I respect that question, because even I'm not saying that if you speak Hebrew, you have the total understanding, because even the Hebrew language can have gray areas in it based on what you just said, because it's been modified, through this new quote unquote Jewish experience. But the Hebrew that we're studying, it mostly comes from the Hebrew that's in the Torah.
So is that the same Hebrew the King James Version was translated from? Are we talking about that Hebrew back in the 1600s, or I'm
pretty much
the contemporary Hebrew which they're talking and speaking in Israel now?
Yeah, I would say that it's closer. It's the Hebrew in the Torah that you can find even online, basically. That Hebrew is more accurate than, say, maybe the Hebrew that you might find in the Talmud and the Mishnah, those more contemporary Hebrew writings. But we're pretty confident that there's enough in the Hebrew that we find in the Torah that gives us more grounding, more accuracy, enough to continue, moving forward with this subject. But I think I'm glad that you said that, my brother, about your first time hearing that. That's probably one of the most important analogies that anyone that's trying to differentiate between the Yeshua ideal of Messiah, or I would say the Hebraic ideal of Messiah, and the Greco-Roman ideal of Messiah could be understood with that comparison. Why didn't King James run consistent with his translation?
So am I to believe that the characters, the disciples, as it were real characters that are in the New Testament? Are they real characters or not?
It's unreliable. See, that's the point about the New Testament. It's just because it was written almost, like we said, 400 or 500 years after first century Palestine. Because when you read those Gospels, it seems as if they were right there at the time with their ideal, with their Messiah. Mm-hmm. But like I said, the epistles of Paul came before the Gospels. So the Greek Testament is too unreliable. I would say I doubt if those men even existed.
So the character Paul then, is he real in your mind?
I would say, from my historical experience, the Apostle Paul was real. However, he was propagating a new religion.
Well,
he was not the narrative of, he wasn't following the narrative of the Hebrew prophets. He was trying to promote a new religion.
I'm sorry to interject, Brother Delvin. So, Brother Kazriel, you're saying that the Yeshua character was never physically manifested as one person per se, that this is a spirit that basically transcended each individual anointed Israelite through the Old Testament. Is that what we're understanding here? It was never one individual per se. And okay, let's say that we acquiesce to that and do indeed believe it to be the case. What's the significance of that? Like, how does it change the grand scheme of things, so to speak?
That the most influence that will have on our way of thinking is the Messiah is not a mythological figure as it was presented in theology. See, even Judaism, or I would say the Jewish religion, even the Islamic religion, they have made these messianic figures mythical individuals, superhuman people who were disconnected from the realities of the human experiences. So that's one thing we would come away with. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what's the significance then of this Messiah, or the person you're referring to, what is the significance of that person right now today? What is it?
Great. That as Israelites, if we understood his mission more, we would know that the most important thing we should be pursuing is to reconnect with our sovereignty, our land, our language,
That's
and
true.
our culture.
Okay.
We should not be looking for a cataclysmic intervention from God. That our teachers, like I said, Yeshua's name means to hear and to do. So what we're supposed to be doing is not looking for the intervention of a spiritual God to save us. We should be listening to our teachers and get more understanding of what we should be doing in order to restore ourselves.
Well, this is the thing, you see. I'll tell you where I'm at with all this, all right? You say listen to the teachers, okay? It says in Deuteronomy, read the books of old, because nothing's going to change. I haven't got it with me now because I just come in the house, but I think it's Deuteronomy 37. I'm not exactly sure. Let me see. I've got my book. 1 second. Let me get this.
Correct. Sure.
Is it 37? Let me see. The reason I'm saying this is because.
Where you reading from?
I'm reading from the Targums, Uziel, but it's the same thing.
Okay.
Let's see, 37. So I read it quite recently as well. Let's see, 37, 34, 32 maybe.
While he's looking for that, let me share something with you all that I heard.
Go for it.
And why I'm loving this conversation is because I read once how, real wise men are not known for what they're able to say. They're known by the questions that they ask. And I'm really enjoying the questions that you brothers are asking, and because it really shows that you all are studying.
Hey, all praise the Most High for bringing us all together on this platform to engage in such a conversation.
And it's serious. I'm smiling, but I'm not. It's not funny. I'm smiling because I'm happy to hear that we have brothers and sisters that are serious about recovering this identity.
Yes, sir.
Forgive me. Right, it was 32:7. I said 37. 32:7. That's what it should. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of every generation. Read the books of the law, and they will teach you, and the books of the prophets, and they will tell you. Okay. Now, when you read Ezekiel and Jeremiah, it does speak of the Most High bringing the people, gathering the brothers and sisters, the Israelites, and then he will bring them into the land with great riches and liberty. So my understanding is that if the Most High is going to do that, and it says that he is going to do that in Ezekiel and in Jeremiah, that's really what I think I'm either waiting for or keeping the Torah for that to happen.
What about
trying to change anything or to, I mean, it does. I can't see for me. I mean, maybe the books that you have there, that where it says a Messiah is multiple or a spirit. Okay, I don't know that. That's new to me. So the Old Testament does read of the Most High coming back, and there is going to be a King Mashiach and Elijah as well. So how do they fit in as well?
But the only challenge we have for what you just read, remember, you're reading English.
Yeah.
If you were to read that same paragraph scripture in the Hebrew, some of it could possibly change. For example, are you familiar with the scriptures that says the Most High will do nothing but reveal his secrets unto the people?
Through the prophet. He would
I've
do
heard
nothing
similar.
until revealing his secrets to the people through the prophets. Is
Yeah,
what I'm
you familiar with that, Prince Israel?
Yes, brother.
So how are we to understand that? That the Most High would do nothing but reveal through revelation to the teachers, and the teachers will make the expression. And then there are things that we have to do. For example, I forget the exact scripture, but it talks about how once we turn our attention back to the Most High, that he would deliver us. Right? He would, this is what the King James basically says, he will deliver us. The word that King James translated to say deliver, in the Hebrew language, it's expressed as we would be restored through a great struggle. A great struggle that we would be encountered with. You know, the Most High wouldn't save us. We would break free. We would be liberated through a great revolt, a great struggle. That's a little different, because what it means then is it's through our awareness, our consciousness. Because when we look at what holds us captive, what really holds us captive is lies and deception. There are no physical boundaries.
And also false prophets as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's 100% correct. But I guess the ideal is, in the conversation, is what are the expectations of a original Hebrew Messiah? What are we to expect from him or her? I know that's probably shocking, because you have say maybe Esther of scripture. She was also considered as a redeemer, a Messiah. It wasn't just relegated to only men. However, there are not a lot of examples of women in that idea, but we're talking about the intellect, you know, the ability to teach, the ability to show the way forward, you know.
Doctor, was Esther, was she in the translation in the Hebrew? Does it say that she was Mashiach as David and the other prophets? Does it say that?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say she was a Messiah. But when you read her story and you read the manifestation of the power and the redemptive force that she helped redeem and restore the people of her time, that's what messiahs did.
Right. Well, you know that there was never any mention of the Most High. Esther's story, it was, I presume, real, but it was more just a story. And the Most High's presence was in it, but he was never mentioned as such in the story.
Yeah.
You all know that, though, yeah? You all know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so I mean, the essence of the story is great, Esther's story, and and what she did for the Israelites, but where I'm struggling is probably not the right word. What I want to just find out is just more in depth of that Mashiach / Messiah scenario, and why would it be then compared to JC? What's the comparison? You know, because stand alone, if that is right, it would have to have any comparison to JC. You know,
right.
and the existence of Paul as well, that also overlaps the grey area, because I was under the impression he didn't even exist. It was just something that they put together to keep more of the Israelites away from the Most High.
I think, yeah, and I wouldn't argue if Paul existed or not. I think that's, I mean, it's something that could help us understand more. But I like the first part of your question in terms of identifying this Messiah and why, how did he end up in the New Testament anyway? You know, you'd have to go back to,
yeah. Why is it compared to JC if it's not the same? If it's not the same,
because that was the work of the European religious power systems that wanted to fashion themselves as new Israel. See, according to the words of the prophets, the Israelites capitulated to their divine mandate. We didn't succeed. We were given laws to follow, and we failed to keep those laws and instructions. And so we went into the great captivity, just like Deuteronomy says. But while we were out in captivity, while we were in this oblivious state, there were those who were trying to identify themselves as new Israel. These were part of the new covenant, the New Testament. And it was really a case of stealing our identity, stealing the whole manifestation of what we represented when I say we, I'm talking about what the Israelite family, what we represented in the entire scheme of the human existence, the human race. They wanted to fashion themselves as though they were us. And this is why you ask any Christian minister, basically they will identify Christians as new Israel, because the prophets did speak of a new covenant, a new beginning, a new heaven and a new earth. But these are concepts, these are ideas, these are, you know, this is not to say that there would be a new people, genetic race of people that would be new.
Brother Casriel, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting. Please, you can go ahead and finish that point. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe I was watching a video about Dimona, and Ben Ami was described as a Mashiach or a Messiah. Is that something that truly our brothers and sisters in Dimona believe?
Yes, we believe it, but we don't. But see, in order to make people comfortable with that, just saying he was Messiah, you would have to understand our definition of Messiah.
But if I was you,
so, but yes, we do see him as Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
But now we actually identify the entire community now as Mishike. We're Messianic people. So again, the most important idea that we found in this Messianic concept is the ideal of truth and righteousness that's supposed to be the part of that character.
Right.
You know.
Now listen, I'm sorry about my Wi-Fi there cutting out there. I'm really, really sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm sorry, Prince. Right. April's not there right now. I don't know where she's gone, but what April has is a channel, and she wants us all to say who we are on her channel, and hopefully have further discussions on her channel about this, not just this subject matter, but other subject matters related to Israelites. Okay. But with this particular talk here today, right, I have got to go now, right? But it's been very, very, very interesting. But I do think we need to do another talk of this nature very soon, both with Dave and with Lee, because they have more of an extensive knowledge on this subject matter. Okay. And
great.
I wish I did, because this is all new to me. But I don't.
But you know enough, bro. I mean, it's been
thank you for that. But I feel a bit. I feel very green here at the moment, because this construct is a new construct. I've never heard this before, so I think we should. Well, I have to go anyway, but you guys can continue talking. I've got to sort something out. But what Henry needs to do, I think, is get Dave and Leon again, show them this video, and they can put their views across on this subject matter. I haven't got much to add. I feel really out of sorts to a degree, because I don't really know much about this, and it's all new, as I said, and I'd rather not say anything to get myself in anything, but it's all new, as I said, and I'd like to further the conversation with others who may have more of a knowledge on this subject matter as well.
Great. And yeah. I love it, because we're not arguing.
No,
we're discussing. We're discussing one of the most important subjects that face our people.
The time for arguing is yesterday. We've got to get together and talk, and get together and have further understanding and knowledge and enlightenment. As a people together, and that's how we're going to go forward. So knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is what we're all looking for, and that there's no room for arguments there. Yes, debate, but no arguments.
100%, right?
No arguments, just discussion and exchanging knowledge. Okay. So on that note, I don't know where April is now.
April just sent me a message and said that she needed to go, and she just interrupt the conversation.
Sure thing. Well, if you guys want to continue talking, you can do so. But I do think Henry should come with another date of this part 2 to this discussion.
I will do, because the main 2 people who know about what doctors are saying, they're not here. So what we'll do, we'll continue your part 2. So what I will do, I'll forward this video to Dave and Lee and everybody else. So when we come back on this in the second part, they will have we will have a lot more
understanding
on it.
Yeah, and now that I understand the context and the content of what we're trying to do here, I'll prepare some notes to give a little bit more clarity as to what we're saying. I'll get the reference to the books, and maybe Henry, you and we can work out where I can share some things on the screen.
I know. I'll work that out.
And then I think it'd be more comprehensible for us all. And unfortunately, I have to go too, Henry.
Yeah.
I have the,
we could wind up if you want. Kwame, great to see you, Kwame, man. I haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you.
But also,
I
before
know.
you leave, bro, I'm going to be doing a talk with some brothers and sisters, some Israelites out of the Netherlands on the 24th. I'm going to send that to Henry's email. I'm going to send the Zoom contact to the email, and I'm sure you're going to find a lot of it interesting.
Yeah, man.
We'll be discussing this whole idea of being Africans and Black and Negro and all of these, superficial adjectives that they identify us by.
Okay.
So I think
when you send me the link, I'll send it to everybody to see.
Yes, I will. Okay.
Brothers, it's great seeing you all. Yeah,
absolute pleasure. As always.
I came on a bit late, but it's great to see everyone, and I'll definitely be on the next one. Oh yes, that's
enjoy it. And give your family our love, please.
Okay.
We'll do. Blessings, everybody. Yeah, peace and love to you all.
God bless, brothers. Till the next one.
Yeah, man.
Probably you okay to we carry on to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just Henry, I don't mind hanging on a bit and having a conversation with yourself and Brother Prince. If you want to carry on, because Doctor needs to go, and so does Delvin. But we can continue just a short conversation afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, and I'll make sure to look to. You're gonna send this the video out for us to review.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna send it to everybody.
Yeah, and then I'll pick up on the conversation that I'll miss.
All right.
Okay then.
Okay, thank you, brothers.
Okay.
Yes. Peace and bless, brothers.
Blessings.
Yeah, I thought that was actually it was an eye opener. I knew I was well aware of the many messiahs in the Book of Remembrance. I was well aware of many messiahs, but understanding where the Christos has come from, where they highlighted an individual out of and not actually linked that individual to the messiahs which have come in the past, or anointed ones as such. I was aware of that. But I wasn't aware that we had brothers and well, I didn't know in Dimona that we had the family in Dimona, that they believed in Yeshua. I didn't know that was the case. I thought they were, that wasn't part of the story. But anyway, I'm interested to hear what you guys got to say, what you brothers have to say.
Because he was saying about Yeshua, but he's separating that from the JC. They're Yeshua in the spirit. But I'm not really understanding. He said it wasn't a person, but it became a spirit. And then if it became a spirit, how did that get to influence at that time? That's what.
Yeah, brother. It was a little confusing to me contextually. I'm not going to lie, because initially I do believe hearing Brother Casriel say that Yeshua came to undo the ways of the Sadducees and the Pharisees and whatnot. So at that point, when he was describing that, I was picturing a physical being, because if he's not physical, as he later explained to us, then who was that person instead? Who was that spirit of Yeshua, as he said, acting upon to influence the ways of the Pharisees and the Sadducees? So we had another conversation definitely needs to be had, without a doubt. But the overarching question is, what's the significance of it all? Because to me, Yeshua, or whatever anyone wants to call him, has the same importance as, say, a Prophet Muhammad. He might have existed, he might have not, but at the end of the day, he's not going to share the Most High's glory. So no worship or praise is going to him regardless. That's just.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. But I was very when I saw the book Zealot, and I was aware that Sakari back in those days were classed as Israelite zealots during that same period the doctor was talking about. I found that quite interesting. So and the name Sakari is really about the dagger that they used to carry, and he mentioned Paul and the dagger having that knife.
Yeah.
Well, so I could, like, for instance, we would be classed as zealots in the scheme of things, because I think when as the modern Israelite, as we see that they believe in Yeshua, and there's other names I know people call JC. And we don't, so we would be classed as zealots. If we were there and we say, okay, we're Israelites, and we started to say, but we don't believe in JC, we don't believe in Yeshua, we don't. If we went in probably in New York or any of these places, they would call us zealots, and we'd be chased down the road. You know?
I firmly agree with you. Yeah, my mother says anytime I tell her about us and what we do, she's like, "What cult are you in? What cult is?" So they think there's this fanatical aspect to it, and they obviously won't understand until they have a conversation with us ultimately. And brother, to your point, brother Kwame, with Sakari, that's probably a derivative of the word Sicario, which are the hitmen for the mafiosos, right? For the mafia. So
yeah, they took it from us. They took it from us. They took it from us, easily enough. I think what was quite interesting as well was the deliverance. I think we got to the point of deliverance in that conversation, and of waiting for somebody to come to deliver us. Like, in 2024, the Messiah will arrive and deliver us. And what the doctor was saying, Dr. Casriel was saying, was that that's not happening. Don't have any expectation for a deliverance. We have to be our deliverance, which I thought was really, really poignant, really interesting, and something that actual subject of deliverance in itself is quite powerful, because then we have the thoughts of Messiah and deliverance, and yet the Israelites in Dimona, they're not even thinking about being delivered. That's not in that's not in their concept. It's about what they're doing to deliver themselves and the wider Israelite community. Anyway,
most definitely. Go ahead.
If the Most High blesses the Israelites again, because he was saying that we haven't, obviously we haven't got the power to overthrow what's going on now, but when the Most High puts his power on the Israelites, who who's worshiping the Most High, then nothing can stand in the way.
It most indeed and definitely. Brothers, I don't know if it was just me, but I do believe I heard Brother Casriel say something along the lines of Yeshua came to redeem. Did he not say that? And then that's something that that had me thinking, because in my head I was thinking about the verse in the Old Testament where it says, fathers shall not be put to death for the sons, and sons shall not be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall die for his own sin. So I wanted to rebuttal to his point when he mentioned it, but yeah, it was a little confusing because it seemed as though he was speaking about Yeshua as a physical being prior to explaining the fact that it was indeed a spirit that was put on all those individual messiahs, David and Solomon, etc., etc. So yeah, definitely a wider conversation to be had there. But to your point, Brother Kwame, at the very least, it is encouraging to hear that our brothers and sisters in Dimona do put the onus on themselves to basically be the vessel of their own salvations by how they walk in righteousness, as opposed to sinning without remorse and expecting some mystical figure to die for their sins or absolve them of the responsibility of the immoral acts that they've committed. So yeah, I do agree with that.
Yeah, I thought that was quite amazing. And what I'd like to know also from what they're doing in Dimona is when we have the feast days, the worship days, and the holy days as such. And also, how do they pray? How do they pray? Do they stand and pray and raise their hands? Do they sit and pray and raise their hands? I want to know. I'm really, that's, for me, the actual practicality of doing what we doing that practice right is important for me as an individual, and I think it's important for our people. We know is this how we do it? As the Buddhists do? What is the way of the Israelite? And those kind of I'd like to know a lot more about those sort of. I want to practice. It's not the preaching side of things. I want to practice and, to bring the connection even closer. And I know we're getting there because every conversation or every meeting we're having is bringing us closer to something great. It's got to be something great because it's got to be something great.
Most definitely, brother. Well said.
This
brother, go
today. So the next one should be, if everybody's on the talk, it will be a big awakening for a lot of people.
No doubt. Yeah, coming with with that preconceived notion of what we're going to be talking about and the notes being made and the information being gathered. But Brother Kwame, because I do speak to a few brothers in Dimona, and they send me videos of what looks like a modern day church sermon, and they'll have the priest, pastor, I can't remember the title, but I don't want to say rabbi, but they definitely occupied that post, or seemed as though they did, and they come up on the pulpit the same way a pastor would. And when he prayed, he was standing while praying. He had like an opening prayer for the service, so to speak, and he prayed in Hebrew, and then he prayed in English. And I believe he spread his hands just to the side, like so, both hands. And but he was definitely standing when he prayed. So I'm not sure if that was a one-off thing or if that's how they typically do it, but I've not heard them extensively elaborate into the procedures of prayer the way Brother Lee would say, as far as face Jerusalem, on your knees, bow your head, spread your hands to heaven, and so on and so forth. So, and I firmly agree with you there, more so than the talk and the words. It's the practice of it, which is why for the longest time I wanted to go to Dimona and even still do, just to assess what the closest cultural comparison of modern day Israelites would be in present day versus what our forefathers did in the Book of Remembrance as we read it. Right?
Yeah.
So what we up, and then we'll have to continue for part 2, which will be interesting.
Most
Okay.
definitely.
Brothers, a pleasure. A
Yeah.
pleasure.
Always.
I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Yeah. Okay.
Most definitely. By the Most High's grace.
Okay.
Take care, brother.
Right.
Peace. God bless.
Okay.